This is not $10 billion that is going into housing, Deputy Speaker. It sounded great during the election, it sounded great for their first few months, but yet again, demonstrated even by these amendments and by the minister speaking on those amendments today, it shows yet again that the Labor government has no idea how to address housing affordability and the shortage of housing within this country.
Groom, and I call the member for Hughes.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. It should come as no surprise that I as well also want to speak on opposing these amendments coming back from the Senate on the government's Housing Australia Future Fund bill. This is not $10 billion that is going into housing, Deputy Speaker. It sounded great during the election, it sounded great for their first few months, but yet again, demonstrated even by these amendments and by the minister speaking on those amendments today, it shows yet again that the Labor government has no idea how to address housing affordability and the shortage of housing within this country. This is not $10 billion going into housing. This is $10 billion that you are borrowing. $10 billion that you were borrowing and then hoping, relying on the vagaries of market returns, hoping that you attain a return that is greater than the amount that you will have to pay out. You'll have to pay fund administrators. So there is no guarantee. This is not going to build one single house. Not one single house. This is lazy and irresponsible economics. It's lazy and irresponsible policy making. It's lazy and irresponsible drafting of legislation. And initially, this was so bad that not even your friends in the Greens could support it. But now after they've extracted $3 billion more from you, and now it has come back from the Senate. But, Deputy Speaker, this is not a bill to house Australians. This is a bill to establish a fund and brought about by massive government borrowing.
Order.
There's been
Order.
You've caved into the Greens, put forward some amendments which simply involve more spending. And when we look at where some of that additional money is going to be spent, at last, Deputy Speaker, we were finally hearing that there was going to be some attempt to actually address the shortage of housing in this country, which is the disconnect between many of the state and local governments with changing their planning, bringing about upzonings and various other reforms. But underlying this is other legislation concerning the government's housing policy that simply says to the states, here's $2 billion, you can spend it however you like. You don't have to tell us where you're going to build the houses, you don't have to tell us what the projects are going to be. Here is $2 billion, no strings attached. This is yet again irresponsible spending by a Labor government. This is simply a way that you could ensure that this funding was not shown on the balance sheets. This is just a lazy attempt to try to address what is a massive crisis in this country. And there is absolutely no talk here about what you're going to do for private home ownership, how you are going to get more Australians, particularly young Australians, into their own homes. When Australians own their own homes, the country does better. So there is no attempt here to assist private home owners. There's no attempt to assist those under 40 who are now at their lowest rates of home ownership since the end of World War II. No attempt at all to assist them into buying their own homes. So again, this is simply borrowing money, establishing a fund, hoping that it makes some money, hoping that it makes some money. But it's not going to deliver a single home. We heard from the member for Riverina about the fact that where are the Labor going to come from to build these homes? There's been nothing said about that. There's also been nothing said about how you're going to deal with all of the various state governments, particularly that one down in Victoria, who are now trying to say that you can't even have any gas appliances in a home. So, Deputy Speaker, we do not support these amendments, and we do not support this bill in general. Thank you.
The member for Monash.